The Trump administration planned to punish states who refuse to ban boycotts of Israel by withholding disaster aid meant for Americans. Another example of how Christian Zionists are the biggest traitors in this country. They want Americans to suffer in order to protect the genocidal state known as Israel. The pushback to this insane policy was so immediate and so severe, the Trump administration actually had to walk it back with their tail between their legs. The Trump administration literally tried to deny the fact that they tried to implement Zio-fascism, despite the fact that they had the policy on their website. And this was such a mask-off moment for Donald Trump and the MAGA Zionist movement that even Trump supporters was questioning Donald Trump and calling him out for abandoning America first. For all the people who was outraged over this policy, including a large amount of right-wingers, I truly need you to understand that this policy is nothing new. There are 36 states in Zionist-occupied America that have active anti-BDS laws or restrictions on the books. For all the people on the right who are upset at Donald Trump over this issue, I really need you to keep this energy up because Zio-fascism isn't new and it's the biggest threat to the rights of Americans. A shocking poll reveals that 79% of Jewish Israelis support starving Palestinians to death, saying they are completely unbothered by the policy. Israel is a sick, twisted, genocidal society. This is why it's extremely dishonest that Bernie Sanders pretends the problem with Israel is simply Benjamin Netanyahu. Have you guys ever considered that Benjamin Netanyahu is genocidal in the first place because it's good politics in Israel? Most Israelis hate Benjamin Netanyahu because he's a corrupt asshole who failed to defeat Hamas, not because he's too genocidal. Israel is such a sick society that Benjamin Netanyahu was able to save his political career after committing a genocide. Israelis were like, yeah, we know we don't like Benjamin Netanyahu and he's a corrupt asshole, but we don't want to get rid of him mid-genocide. That would be simply rude. It's very important to remember that the starvation of the Palestinian people is not just Israeli government policy, but there are violent, fascist settlers who destroyed aid and blocked aid routes in order to facilitate the starvation of Gaza. Israel is a state full of sick, twisted, genocidal people. Be extremely wary of anyone who tries to pin Israel's problems on one person or one party.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, we are back. We are back once again. The streak continues. Welcome to Nick at Primetime. Another Wednesday edition. I am having a great time doing the show. I hope you guys are as well. You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. Maybe I could have turned the music down on that video just a little bit. I didn't notice it was that loud till now, but you guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. Still a lot to discuss today. We're going to dive into the sick Israeli society, and this is what I was covering. In my hotspots, I usually release around 4 to 5 hotspots every single week. Also, there was an interesting conversation. This is the main headline of this stream, is the conversation between Dr. Cornel West and Norman Finkelstein on whether we should be nice to Zionists and allow them in our spaces. And I don't want to spoil it too much. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But when you see these stories about how broken and how violent and how genocidal Israelis are, you realize how dishonest people like Bernie Sanders, many progressive liberal Zionists, when they pretend that all the problems of Israel come down to the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu, as if Benjamin Netanyahu being genocidal is not what got him in power in the first place. But he's not doing the will of the Israelis. And I listen to a lot of liberal Zionists, and they will take protest they see in Tel Aviv, and they're like, see, guys, the Israeli people don't approve of Benjamin Netanyahu. Don't you see they're in the streets protesting Netanyahu? You know how many times I see MSNBC do these kind of stories? The Israeli people are turning against Netanyahu. And then during these stories or these tweets where they are talking about how the Israeli people are turning against Netanyahu, often they would never mention why these people are protesting Netanyahu. A lot of these protests against Netanyahu had nothing to do with them being upset at how Netanyahu was treating Palestinians. They was upset that Netanyahu failed to destroy Hamas and get back the hostages. They protested Netanyahu because they failed to accomplish the military objective. Where have you guys heard that before? Very common among the IDF in the United States, who actually don't accomplish their military goals. They just accomplish mass destruction. So if anything, and this is why people like Bernie and the liberal Zionists are extremely dishonest, if anything, you have Israelis who protest Netanyahu because their government is not vicious enough. They are furious at the idea of any aid going into Palestinians. Most Israeli Jews support starving and using starvation as a tool of war. 64% of Israelis believe there is no innocence in Gaza. So you want to know what kind of stuff they protest in Israel, what they get upset with at their government for? They get upset because the Israeli government arrested some Israeli prison guards who was caught raping a Palestinian man to death. So they hit the streets. So you had the Israelis who engaged in direct action, and they mobilized so the IDF will have the power to rape Palestinians to death. And you want to know how the government of Israel responded to the pro-rape rallies? Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, responded exactly how a democracy you would expect a democracy to. They listened to the people and they allowed their IDF military members to rape Palestinians. I didn't have it say. I got pull it up though. Oh, here it is. This is open knowledge, bro, and people still pro-Israel. Yes, many on the right wing who are extremely anti-gay. They claim the left is full of sexual deviants. Meanwhile, they are cheering on an army that engage in anal rape of men. Can you think about how broken the mind of Christian Zionists are? Christian Zionists support a state and willing to pay taxpayer money to the state that engage in anal rape of men, sodomizing men to death as a form of punishment. And they call themselves a Christian. There's no single ideology that's more barbaric and more batshit crazy than Christian Zionism. So this is the kind of stuff that Israelis are willing to hit the street for. Israeli protesters rally for the right to rape prisoners. And guys, do you think this is something that I'm ever going to let Zionists ever live down? For people who don't follow me on X, there's a reason why people don't, there's no call outs of me. Zionists don't highlight me no more. It makes me very sad. The ADL, they learned their lesson. I remember the ADL, they made a Twitter thread where they were trying to smear RBN and they were trying to smear me as a group of anti-Semites. They're like, we want to let you guys know that these people are black anti-Semites. And I just use that as an opportunity to highlight our channel. Because you guys know I always want to vote. And I was posting this story. Every time one of these Zionists always go after me, I just post headlines of what the people that they're defending are doing. That's why they don't even bother no more, because I said many times before, I don't understand why people are stressed out over social media. I guess I'm old school, but you already know I always want the phone. I always want the phone. And if you go after me, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to highlight my position and my opinion. Just like when people got upset at me over my position over anti-Semitism, I'm like, okay, I'm not no bitch. Like, what the fuck? What am I going to do? Cry? Oh, people were mad at me. No, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to open a forum, to have a complex conversation about this issue. And that's exactly what I do whenever I see these Zionists go after me. I'm like, hey, man, I need you to explain, why did so many Israelis go out and protest their government because they want to support raping Palestinians to death? Meanwhile, you guys are the same people who want us to believe that Hamas engage in unique sexual violence. Meanwhile, Israelis are literally protesting, like, yeah, we support rape. This is why, and I feel like I was a leader on this issue on independent media, because before my interview with Marianne Williamson, my very viral interview with Marianne Williamson, where I grilled Marianne Williamson over her support of the two-state solution, there was people like the Vanguard, there was Vouch, there was all these people like, oh my God, Nick is such a piece of shit. He just trying to use a gotcha question, because this was before October 7th. And I was one of the people like, man, fuck this two-state solution bullshit. Like, you guys know why Palestinians say they support a two-state solution, because if they don't, they will be murdered. If a Palestinian says they support the correct position, the one-state solution, they will be labeled as a terrorist. They will be financially retaliated against. That happens when Palestinians advocate for a two-state solution. They are called anti-Semites for understanding international law and the fact that Israel is a legal state blocking the creation of a Palestinian state, which justifies the existence of Hamas. Even knowing all this, they still get threatened for supporting a two-state solution. So, of course, many of them don't even think to support a one-state solution. They know that's the right position, but they want to get any victory for the movement. Meanwhile, my position, this is why I threw many people on the left off, because your guys' strategy of leading from behind on Palestine is a failed strategy, and it shows how you guys are not actually allies. It's the same argument that many people in the black left will make, that many black Marxists and revolutionaries will make, where we say where you had to struggle the black working class. You got to center the black struggle, because if you center the black struggle, the tide will uplift all boats from there. And that's a very good sign that you have your head on straight. That if you want to follow the muscle among us and lead us, the working class, to a victory. But what many people do, they undercut the demands. And this is what white allies do to black leftists all the time. They will undercut our demands, tell us why we're being unreasonable here, instead of leading from the front and normalizing the correct position. They would never tell us we're wrong. They will say stuff like, oh, I don't think reparations is popular. I don't think that will hurt. Oh, that's too divisive. No, explain why we're wrong, or get out of the way. And that is what allyship has failed in the United States and Western left for a very long time. So knowing this frustration that I've been through, seeing how many white allies failed the black radical movement, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and do the same thing to the Palestinians, my Palestinian brothers and sisters. So if I demand that my comrades, my brothers in arms, allow black radicals to lead on issues that are important to them, and now have people undercut our demands, wouldn't we be hypocrites if we do the same thing to the Palestinian community? So I'm like, dude, I'm going to lead in front on this issue, and I'm going to make the moral, correct, intellectual, and legal arguments that many of our Palestinian brothers and sisters don't have the right to make. They're not allowed to make these arguments because we live in a country of an era of Zio-fascism in the West. So my argument for why I don't support a two-state solution, not only because it's ahistorical, if you ask us how we ended apartheid in South Africa, did we create two states in South Africa? That is not what happened. When you have apartheid states that you're serious about solving, there's only one way you solve an apartheid state and having a radical apartheid population, and that is having a state where everyone has equal rights under the law. That is what we did in the United States when we had apartheid against Black Americans. Did they create Black Palestine, for a lack of a better term, in the United States? Oh, we're gonna have Black Palestine. You're still not equal here, but we're gonna give you the South. I almost wish they did that almost. But no, how did they solve the era of Jim Crow? They solved the era of Jim Crow by having one state where everyone has equal rights under the law. So to me, and this is what I came to terms with years ago, that this is obviously the correct position. But even beyond all that, why should the Palestinians be forced to live among these people? Why should the Palestinians be forced to live next door to a society where 64% of them don't believe even the children of Palestinians are innocent? So for the people who believe they're allies of Palestine, and they say stuff like, you can't call for the destruction of Israel, what is the alternative? The alternative is what European countries and the fake left is advocating for. The fake social democrat, the people who are friends of the fascists and the friends of imperialism, what are they calling for? They're calling for a Palestinian state where Hamas disarms and they're not allowed to govern. That is the left position in the United States. I support a Palestinian state, but with conditions. Hamas has to disarm. So do you guys understand how psychotic this position is? So not only do you put the fate and damn the Palestinians to a fate where they live next to these genocidal monsters, you then demilitarize them and leave them helpless against the Israeli Zionist scourge who will inevitably invade and fuck with the Palestinian people. So in a situation where generally the entire Western left is calling for, the entire world is calling for a Palestinian state with no Hamas, Palestinian state, but they don't have a standing military. Like, you guys know that's what France and Canada is calling for. All these European countries who are calling for these fake Palestinian states, they're essentially calling for a Palestine with no standing military. You might as well just allow Israel to claim Palestine. If you might as well let Israel annex Palestine if that's your fucking position. You guys trust the Likud party? And the next generation of Israelis, bro. Like, we have dealt with fascist Israelis for decades now. Obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu was no angel, but bro, the next generation of fascist Israelis, you guys think they will be respectful of a Palestinian state that doesn't have a standing military, bro? Do you guys understand how much people who claim to care about Palestinians are willing to fuck Palestinians, even in their best case scenario? So you guys see how, even though my position is the unlikely one to happen, there is no way I'm not going to advocate for the correct position of a one-state solution, the restoration of Palestine, where everyone has equal rights under the law. And what I think is not unreasonable, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to have the same position that people had regarding Nazi Germany. Did we just allow Nazis to be reintroduced into society? Well, I was a sweet summer child when I asked that question. Because, yeah, they did in secret. But many Nazis were tried and executed. And the idea is just following orders wasn't good enough. I believe that not only there should be a restoration of Palestine where everyone should have equal rights under the law, I believe that all former IDF soldiers should be tried and prosecuted for committing war crimes. Every single IDF member who invaded Lebanon, every single IDF member who took a social media photo of them posing in women's lingerie. What about the IDF members who was caught playing with children's toys, wearing the skirts of the children they murdered? You guys telling me that these people should be reintroduced into society? What are you talking about? So people think I'm extreme and I'm radical, but how is that not the radical position? The idea that you're going to allow fucking Nazis who murdered children to be rehabilitated in our society. So you guys see how my position is far away from the professional managerial class, mainstream left in the United States who are wrong, who make a career pretending to support Palestinians when at the end of the day they will support a policy that will lead to their doom. Israeli domination over a hypothetical Palestinian state, allowing war criminals to go completely free, live among us and radicalize their children. Which I think this is a good lead into our next story regarding Dr. Cornel West, because Dr. Cornel West, he makes the argument that we shouldn't marginalize genocidal Nazis. We should be inclusive of child killers. And this is the argument that the weak professional managerial class is going to make. These are the same people who say, I can't ever condemn Hamas. Remember, Dr. Cornel West is the same person who condemned Hamas for October 7th. How dare Hamas engage in one of the most successful military operations of all time? I only mourn when Palestinians are murdered. This is the position of people like Dr. Cornel West and Bernie Sanders. They are sad when Palestinians are murdered, but God forbid any Palestinian has a victory on the battlefield. Then Dr. Cornel West and Bernie Sanders will condemn you. People like Bernie Sanders want those Palestinians dead. And you want to look at me with a straight face for the like Dr. Cornel West and for the professional managerial class boutique left, for the people who condemn Hamas, or you want to tell me with a straight face, and this goes for every single coward and hypocrite in the West. Are you telling me that if you were a Palestinian in Gaza, you wouldn't join Hamas? Like, the idea of someone close to me, like my niece, like, can you imagine, like, if my mother was forcibly displaced by settlers like this? Like, this is Israeli settlers stealing a Palestinian refrigerator. This is what they was doing for decades. This is what I covered for years, even before October 7th. They just steal Palestinian stuff. So imagine if you have these settlers that break into your mother's home, steal her fridge, they assault your family, they burn down and they attack your religious places of worship. They murder your brothers and sisters. Are you telling me that in this situation, you wouldn't sign up for Hamas or any sort of Palestinian resistance group because Hamas is just one of many? Just the thought of my niece or anyone I love being murdered by a rogue colonizer state. Like, think about the person that you love the most just being murdered by a violent settler state that violently hates you and your people. You telling me that you wouldn't sign up for Hamas in that situation? Every single American and every single person in the West who says they wouldn't support Hamas after what these scum do is either a liar or a coward. Which is it? So I am of the belief that we should have no tolerance for these scumbags. I've been showing you guys all these videos of how Israelis radicalize their children from a young age. A lot of people like to ignore just the toxic society and how they're literally the modern day Nazis. This is an Israeli girl punching at a Palestinian just from seeing his face.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, where are you from? Israel?
Yes. Yes.
I'm from Palestine. Relax. I'm from Palestine. I'm a human like you.
Israel, free Israel, free Israel, free Israel, free.
Free Israel from what? You don't like Palestine?
No, Palestine.
Why? Why? They're children, bro. She's trying to punch me through the screen. They are taught to hate Palestinians at such a young age. They look at Palestinians as animals, unfortunately. That is just the reality. Hello.
Bro, when I was her age, the only thing I cared about was playing Dragon Ball Z, playing my Power Rangers. Can you imagine having this much hate in your heart at such a young age? These are the people that are part of normal Israeli society. There's 79% of the people who support using starvation as a tool of war. Now I'm gonna get to this story because I don't know about you guys, but I plan on spending the rest of my life going after these people. What is a more noble life goal or pursuit than trying to, with us knowing that there's no statute of limitation on genocide? Isn't it a noble goal for us to spend our time trying to lock up the IDF scum, the people who enabled one of the worst acts of war we've ever seen? Live stream genocide. And I think the IDF members need to be called out. I think we need to make it a social stigma. It's already happened all over the world. We are already seeing like Zionists being made unsufferable. There's a story of an American IDF member in Missouri who was attacked. And I gotta be careful when I report that story though, because there's so many fake false flag stories. I'm still not 100% convinced that that's a real story. But apparently was an IDF member who was assaulted in Missouri. There are IDF soldiers who are being called out in public. There are people who are being refused. There are people who are being refused service. Israelis and Zionists have no idea how much harder things are going to get for them, especially for the ones who are still young. For the rest of our life, we're going to be going after you guys. So I found this conversation interesting. And I don't actually have any hatred. I don't have any dislike for Dr. Cornel West at all. I think he's an admirable guy. I think he's an admirable guy who's doing his best to fight for his community. I just have critiques. That's all. I wouldn't even call this a diss track of Dr. Cornel West. But I've seen this, and this is the example of what you see with the professional managerial class left that annoys the shit out of me. You know what I mean? Where he argues that we shouldn't be marginalizing the genocidal scum. So actually, I'm gonna refresh it just to make sure the audio is working well. Then we can play the video. So this is the main story I want to get into. Also, I'm going to get how I'm gonna cover how Democrats are panicking because Americans are turning against Israel. So they're in full-blown panic mode and they're changing the way they speak. So I just want to cover this conversation. It's not me like trying to attack Dr. Cornel West or anything. It's just this shit is kind of cringe to me.
And I know Brother West. He embraces everybody. When he says brother, when he says Brother Sharpton, I cringe. But he does it, even though Brother Sharpton has stabbed him many a time in the back. But I say they ought to be shunned. You ought not to be inclusive of child killers. I'm asking you, Cornel, do you feel that those students are obliged to be inclusive of child killers? I'm curious, because I know you're very inclusive. Maybe your tent stretches from here to the other side of the galaxy. Do you believe that they should be inclusive of child killers?
Yeah, that's a hell of a way of characterizing it, though, because you see, part of the problem here, brother, is that, I mean, the history of religions, which has been, for the most part, the history of barbarism in terms of institutional religions, they have specialized in shunning people. And once you begin to shun, then the next step is dehumanization, subjugation, and you're just redoing the same cycle that you yourself were resisting from the very beginning. On the other hand, and here this is where, now see, and he did not, we have such great respect and love for you, brother, but we don't agree on everything. Is that right, though, babe? We don't agree on everything. Because different strokes for different strokes, not in the superficial sense. Sly Stone just died. That ain't no joke. That was at the dignity of everyday people. You a different kind of brother than I am. I don't have to make you like me. You the kind of brother who have courage, intellect, unbelievable commitment to truth, and believes in shunning. I'm a different kind of brother. Shunning people who are connected with killing babies.
I don't believe in shunning as if it.
I 100% believe that we should dehumanize people who murder children, people who support. I believe if you support the Israeli military action in Gaza, if you're someone like Randy Fine and you say that we should starve Gazans away, that we should 100% make that a social stigma for you to have those ridiculous genocidal beliefs. And this is what the academic left, like Dr. Cornel West, do. Or I should say more of the professional managerial class. Because there's a reason why Dr. Cornel West is accepted on CNN and among polite society, while Dr. Norman Finkelstein, his career was ruined. He always talks about how he's broke because how they destroyed his career. That's because, and this is why Dr. Cornel West's generation of the left failed. They want us to be stripped of all emotion, and they completely intellectually masturbate over the idea of taking the moral high ground. This lack of emotion and obsession with having the intellectual moral high ground, this is a dead end way of thinking that empowers our oppressors. It's healthy to hate your oppressors. And in this shunning of legitimate emotions is why Dr. Cornel West's generation of leftists failed to connect with the masses and rein in the ruling class. They always have some elite academic explanation on why we should moderate our feelings and moderate how we believe. And the thing is, they're not even being intellectually honest. Because what these people do is they take a position that protects their social standing. So if Dr. Cornel West shunned genocidal Zionists, he will be less likely to be allowed on the CNN panel where he can debate genocidal psychopaths like Scott Jennings and huck it up and ham it up with him. So what the professional managerial class do is they take positions that protect their social standing, that doesn't harm their career, and then they work backwards from their conclusion from there. And then they try to gaslight us, everyone else who don't want to be a careerist, people who don't want to be part of that club, and try to explain why this is a legitimate and acceptable way to live our life. So Dr. Cornel West is explaining why we shouldn't shun genocidal people, because he's trying to gaslight us and try to convince us why it's okay for him to pal around with these assholes on CNN. It's extremely self-serving. But let's continue this. I wanted the video to play as much as possible, but that's me chiming in. But let's listen to some more. I'll let Dr. Norman Finkelstein respond before I chime in again.
I'll
go back a bit so you guys get more context.
From the very beginning. On the other hand, and here this is where Nasiba, and he did not, we have such great respect and love for you, brother. But we don't agree on everything. Is that right, though, babe? We don't agree on everything. Because different strokes for different strokes, not in the superficial sense. Sly Stone just died. That ain't no joke. That was at the dignity of everyday people. You a different kind of brother than I am. I don't have to make you like me. You the kind of brother who have courage, intellect, unbelievable commitment to truth, and believes in shunning. I'm a different kind of brother. Shunning people who are connected with killing babies.
I don't believe in shunning as if it were a political principle. It's a visceral reaction.
Yes.
There's something revolting about, as Harvard kept writing, to be inclusive of child killers. I find that just an utterly revolting concept.
But
isn't it?
But we just different kind of brothers.
We
got different kind of temper.
Well, if someone was like, "Hey, man, you can't judge me too much because I'm pounding around with a bunch of Nazis, man." Would liberals be okay if you I'll just pound around with this person who's extremely homophobic? Like the professional managerial class left has no standards, and they expect us to have no red lines because they don't have any, because they are not. It's not good for their career to drive a moral red line in the sand. For us to say we need to put pressure on genocidal Zionists, call for them to be arrested, for them to be tried for war crimes, to unapologetically back the Palestinian resistance. But I'm sorry, I'll let this exchange continue because I think Norman Finkelstein do a good job here.
It's a visceral reaction.
Yes.
There's something revolting about, as Harvard kept writing, to be inclusive of child killers. I find that just an utterly revolting concept.
But
isn't it?
But we just different kind of brothers. We got different kind of temperaments, man. I don't believe in just. Look at it this way. Look at it this way.
Would you corrupt?
If we shunned every American who supported the extermination of indigenous people, there's not a whole lot of folk left in the history of television. If we shun the majority of Americans who supported the enslavement of black people, the lynching of black people, Jim Crow and Jane Crow, who's left? Well, you got some Mormons, you got some Quakers and some Mennonites and so forth around. Then you got the secular Jews in Brooklyn who come in with this rich tradition and want to go to the back of the bus on the Jim Crow bus when all the black folk are there and the Goyim is in the front. That's a small group.
No, this is a rhetorical evasion.
No, it's not. I'm speaking directly to your question. I'm just not agreeing with you.
Would you cavort and carouse? Because these students are complaining. They don't invite us to their parties. That's what they say. They don't invite us to our parties. They don't want us in our groups. They don't want to associate with us.
That's microsocial activity.
Would you cavort?
We know that's not the issue. That's not the crucial issue. The question is, how do you stop the killing of Palestinian children and innocent folk? And how do you become organized and mobilized enough to bring power and pressure to bear? This is what
your generation failed to do, Dr. West. This strategy of being accepting towards evil and tolerating intolerance accomplished what exactly? After you being in an institutional power, after people listening to the Bernie Sanders left, you want to know what the result of all this was? The Palestinians were genocided. Old heads, like old head leftists, really humor me. And I promise you guys, I will not be like this when I get older. If we don't have communism, if we don't have a revolution by the time I'm 60 years old, I'm going to shut the fuck up and I'm going to be humble. Because we tried it your way, Dr. West. The arrogance that the gray-haired academic class leftists have where they constantly tone police us, they pretend we're wrong as if they haven't had institutional left power over the last few decades, as if they've delivered victories for the working class. We're the victories for the working class, and I'm not judging you on a personal human level for this. I'm just saying, where does your arrogance come from? I'm legitimately asking. Where does the arrogance of people like Dr. West come from? Well, we gotta allow the Zionists in. You gotta be okay with racists. Based on what? What theory are you basing this on? What historical victories are you basing your positions on? Because after 60 years of fighting, after 60 years of being a leftist, you don't even have health care to show. You didn't even win health care for the American people. The military-industrial complex is out of control. The police state is more well-funded and more violent than ever. Why are old school-headed leftists so arrogant? What have you accomplished? The same people like Dr. Cornel West, and this is why we had our beef before, he will back up Nazis like Alexei Navalny, and these people will call Putin a tyrant and thug. In Russia, they have paid maternity leave. In Russia, they have universal health care. They provide stuff for the working class that we don't have in the United States. So you have these old gray-haired leftists from the Cold War era who hate China and Russia, despite the fact that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin provides more to the working class than you ever want for the American working class in the United States. Bernie Sanders despised Putin, despite that Putin provided health care to his people, something that Bernie Sanders failed to do. So, and this is why they hate the RBN left. This is why we are shunned by the professional managerial class and the mainstream left. Because we are young, black, radical leftists that is questioning the way they do things. They're used to being the leftists of the left. Oh my God, look at this left, amazing radical. And we look at them and their work and we're like, hey man, we're not satisfied. I feel like you guys could zig, we should have zagged here. We should have critiqued, and they hate us for it, guys. You guys remember? Because I critiqued and I explained, Dr. Cornel West, how you should be praising a CIA-backed traitor like Alexei Navalny, who is a neo-Nazi. And because I said it, he was like, oh, you just a Jimmy Dore leftist. Like, the old heads, they can't stand it when the new generation come and they correct their failures. And I'm telling you guys right now, I thought someone said, I won't let you. I'm sorry, I can't read the chats. It's hard to read chats on solo streams. Someone said, I won't let you. Once I'm 60, bro, if I haven't accomplished anything for the working class after 30 years of fighting, I'm a just provide financial support, and I'm gonna allow the next generation of revolutionaries teach me a lesson. Anyway, let's continue this conversation. Only a minute left. I have one more segment I want to get to. I want to get to a segment how genocidal Democrats are starting to realize they bet on the wrong genocidal horse. Because Democratic consultants explained to them how being pro-Israel is good politics, but they couldn't calculate for this massive shift that just happened. So now modern Democrats are panicking and shifting to a more pro-Israel position. So that'd be our next segment for the day. We're almost an hour in. Please like and share, subscribe. Make sure you tune in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like our audience for these Nick and Primetime shows are growing, man. It's bro, YouTube can't hold me down forever, bro. Like I know we don't be putting up big numbers on RBN, but man, when I see the fact that we're growing every single damn episode, it's nice to see. You know what I mean? So let's keep it up. Please like, share, subscribe if you're enjoying these rant sessions and streams. I still have a lot of guests planned. Sarah from DDG will be back. Nico House will be back. Shama, we have a new series as well. So, Nick and Shama show, or Shama and Nick. So still a lot of content. Make sure you guys support our new show. Don't let it flop, my friends. I'm gonna go back. Let's finish this clip, and I'll get back to our next segment.
They don't invite us to their parties. That's what they say. They don't invite us to our parties. They don't want us in our groups. They don't want to associate with us.
That's microsocial activity, though, brother. We know that's not the issue. That's not the crucial issue. No, the question is, how do you stop the killing of Palestinian children and innocent folks, and how do you become organized and mobilized enough to bring power and pressure to bear? It's not whether they get invited to some party after somebody's Hillel meeting and so forth and so on. No, we're not going to spend time on that.
Would you cavort and carouse with a child killer? I'm curious. I don't think that's a trivial question.
No.
You wouldn't.
No.
You would shun them, correct?
I would do more than shun, brother. I'd probably cuss them out and lose my Holy Ghost and kick their behind in the name of Jesus. But the point is, that's not normative. That's not the only model that I want everybody to proceed. I got my own way of being in the world. I'm a jazz man, got my own voice. This is how I decide to live my life. I want to love my way through the darkness. I don't believe in shunning, even given the crimes that people commit. If you got a different view, that's cool. I'm with you. We in the same demonstrations. We go to jail together, and we have fascinating conversations on child killers and how do you respond to child killers. That's all.
I just thought it was an interesting conversation. I'm interested in seeing what you guys think in the chat, so make sure you guys leave a comment what you guys thought. What I believe, and this is why the professional managerial class left has failed the working class in the United States. They take positions because they're still loyal to their class. This is the boutique bourgeois left that Marx has warned about. So if you're still attached to your class, if you are part of elite academia, if you are invited on CNN and you're part of the bourgeoisie social club, you want to know what you do when you see one of the greatest acts of resistance in modern times? You condemn it. You condemn Hamas for October 7th. That's what Dr. Cornel West did. He said he believed that October 7th was barbaric. Just condemning the Palestinian resistance. And I've seen this pattern over my years of doing this. I've seen some things. The people who want to be in the in crowd, they take positions not because intellectually or morally right, because Dr. Cornel West is making the moral argument that we should wine and dine with people who support genocide, which is crazy to me. There's no moral or intellectually defending this position that you're going to wine and dine with Scott Jennings. You know what I mean? But what the professional managerial class do is they work backwards from their position that protects their social standing. This is why many of these people endorsed Biden, and voted for Biden, like Dr. Cornel West did. That's why you would see Sam Cedar, you would see Hassan Piker. They would attack Jill Stein. Hassan Piker and Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, they told you that you shouldn't trust Dr. Jill Stein. Dr. Cornel West says you shouldn't trust Dr. Jill Stein. Jill Stein, the person who was arrested, one of the few anti-Zionist Jews who got brutally arrested for protesting genocide, Hassan Piker, AOC, they want you to be distrustful of her. But Hassan Piker the biggest left streamer in the United States, by the way, not just a small fry. He condemns Jill Stein, but he supports AOC. Someone who literally votes to fund Israel. So I'm gonna show you guys this clip. I saw one of my friends posted this clip here, and I'm gonna show you
How
guys
have you been allowed to speak
exactly
out
why.
in such a cutting way for so long?
Not yet, man.
Well, easy. Nobody listens.
Or maybe everyone listens, but no one seems to challenge you to the degree.
I don't know why the fuck they won't let me pause the video. I'm gonna read a few super chats now. I'll play this. Then I can't pause this? What the hell on our channel? Remember, but if you remember the initial beef between us and Dr. Cornel West started because I criticized him supporting Alexei Navalny. You know, the neo-Nazi white supremacist who worked with the CIA to betray his people and tried to overthrow Russia. So then Putin, like any rational fucking leader, like every government in the history of mankind was, after it was caught, and he was, WikiLeaks released a video where he was caught on film admitting that he took millions of dollars from the MI6 in order to overthrow his country. So you are a traitor who sided with a violent, genocidal CIA against the will of your people and the will of your government. You guys realize in every single society ever, you will get locked up for that. What society are you allowed to just take fucking bribes to overthrow your country? So people who actually understand these issues and the people who are actually the serious left, I have to explain to Dr. Cornel West, someone who claims to have someone who has a doctorate degree. That's when I revoked his doctorate. Because I'm like, bro, you have a doctorate degree and you don't understand the background behind Alexei Navalny. And you want to know what he did? Dr. Cornel West and a few others, he doubled down and repeated the CIA lie that Putin murdered Alexei Navalny. Bro, Alexei Navalny died from a blood clot. Something that you can medically prove. There is no magical blood clot ray guns, at least from my understanding, that the Russians or the CIA have. Like, in the corporate media was more than they was happy to spread this conspiracy theory. They was like, hey, don't you know Putin murdered Alexei Navalny? No, he died from a blood clot. You can literally do forensics and shit. I'm not a scientist, but you can do forensics and shit. and you can realize how he died. But Dr. Cornel West was one of the few people who was spreading the unfounded conspiracy theory because of his Putin derangement syndrome in order to manufacture consent against war against Russia, that Putin in Russia has a blood clot gun and used that magic clot gun to force and murdered Alexei Navalny with it. So what I did, guys, is I critiqued Dr. Cornel West on that. And Dr. Cornel West's response is really deplorable because I don't know if you guys remember, he was running for president and he came on RBN not once, not twice, but 3 times in the span of a few months. And we had an agreement. Our agreement, because we are not here to do free PR for a politician. We are not here to do softball interviews. So our agreement was, hey, man, you can come on RBN. We can have conversations. But whenever you step out of line, we are going to criticize you. And remember, when Dr. Cornel West was on our show, he was like, hey, yeah, man, it's cool. I'm glad to be in dialogue with you, bruh. I want you guys to hold me accountable, bruh. I want you to hold me accountable. And remember, I was like excited. I'm like, hey, yo, this is dope, man. We got someone running on the Green Party. We got someone who's popular, running as a third-party president, who's willing to listen to criticism of RBN. And then the second that we laid criticism on him, he flipped the fuck out, smeared us. And I'm like, bro, you cannot be serious. So then after this, and then after that, that's when he dropped out of the Green Party because he got upset because the Green Party wanted him to actually organize instead of running a vanity project. So that's another time we criticized them. There was no point where I ever, and I still believe this to this day, where I ever went below the belt against Dr. Cornel West. and he is still salty. He unfollowed me. Like, they hate RBN to this day because I was just critical of him, just like he asked me to be. Meanwhile, Dr. Cornel West wants you to believe that he don't believe in shunning people. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting how that class dynamics works? So the RBN roasting and cooking of Dr. Cornel West was really regrettable. And it was something I kind of fell into. And there are a lot of people who still don't forget, who will never forgive me to this day. You guys know every once in a while I'll see an older black liberal person like, nigga, fuck you. I saw how you go. How dare you go after Dr. West? Oh, well, man. Oh, well. Big shout out to Louis Malone, man. You guys making doing the show worth it. Because like I said, this is not a big money grift channel. We're very surprised by the algorithm, but so super chats and stickers like these really make doing these shows worthwhile. I appreciate you, Louis Malone. This really uplifts my spirit. I appreciate it, guys. I said it many times before. You guys know the only reason I even do this is because I live in a low cost of living area. Like, but there's no way I could be doing RBN if I lived in like New York. I live in the middle of nowhere outside of Kansas City in Missouri. So I scrape by living as a very humble working class citizen journalist. So any great super chats like these, I greatly appreciate. I really do. Anyway, thank you guys. I wish I could read more of the chats. As I mentioned before, it's hard to read chats when you're doing solo streams. You producing on your own. I wrote my own script. Like, bro, I'm doing everything. Like the professional managerial class, the people who got writers. Motherfuckers got writers, producers, and shit. Like, can you imagine being that fucking lazy? Meanwhile, I do everything you see on the show. I produce, fucking make the titles, I do fucking everything. So that's why I appreciate you guys whenever you actually help me out and provide tips for my labor. That's for damn sure. So I had this video tuned for a while. For people who got short attention spans like I do, I played this video between Dr. Cornel West and Norman Finkelstein where they disagree about shunning people. And Dr. Cornel West was making an argument that it's not good for us to shun people. Even though Dr. Cornel West shuns RBN, even though we made very light criticisms of him. And I said before that I think Cornel West is being extremely self-serving and intellectually dishonest when he makes this argument, because just like everyone else in the professional managerial class, they're working backwards from their conclusion. So in order to be part of CNN, you just say, oh, I can't shun genociders. So that's why he got his position he does. So this is why Dr. Norman Finkelstein is shunned by the corporate media. He has been ruined because his principal position on Palestine, his refusal to condemn Hamas. Anyway, let me just play a video. I had this up for a while. I'll play it. Let me unmute it.
In such a cutting way for so long. How have you been allowed to speak out in such a cutting way for so long?
Well,
so the question, if you guys didn't hear it, he was like, hey, Norman Finkelstein, you've been going hard. But he does go hard. He's playing Norman Finkelstein, for all the people who got upset at me for my takes on anti-Semitism, and when I say it's about Jewish supremacy, Dr. Norman Finkelstein was one of the first people I seen that said that. Where Norman Finkelstein, I believe it was on Bree's show, if I remember right, where he said, I don't even like using the term Zionism. We need to start calling it Jewish supremacy. These people are Jewish supremacists. And I was like, this nigga's spinning, bro. I popped big on that one. I was like, bro, that shit fire. So then I said the same thing Norman Finkelstein said, and then everyone called me an anti-Semite. That's how it goes. I was like, man, I think there's a problem with Jewish supremacy. They'd be like, how dare you say that? I mean, they just said the same thing. Nigga, Norman Finkelstein said that. You guys applauded. People are confusing to me. But so anyway, the question is, why was you able to get away with being so RBN-like and not giving a fuck what you say? And the funny thing is, and the reason why I'm showing you guys this clip is that's actually a misconception. And he's going to explain how he actually did not get away with having the positions that he had.
How have you been allowed?
Do you guys see what's the reality of the Zio-fascism that we live under? You're allowed to make money. You're allowed to go on CNN if you condemn Hamas for October 7th. If you take the position that Norman Finkelstein, the one I heard him say, he was like, nigga, I don't blame them for October 7th. They are 100% justified in that. This is what happens. Now do you guys see why Dr. Cornel West had the position of not shunning Zionists? Meanwhile, Norman Finkelstein, like, hell yeah, I will cancel every single genocidal Zionist. Fuck them. And this is what happens to the Norman Finkelsteins, to the RBNs. This is why it's making humble, working class, middle of American income. This is why we're not millionaires like you see on Breaking Points and Cal Kalinske. Because it's very easy to be a duopoly imperialist sellout. That easy grift. It's easy to do Republican versus Democrat videos. Which is why it's baffling to me. And you will see it on Twitter with the brain dead losers on Twitter all the time, where they say RBN is a bunch of grifters. I bet Sam Cedar, Norman Finkelstein is a grifter. Where's the grift in being principally pro-Palestine liberation? Where's the grift in being post-duopoly? Where's the grift in being principally anti-imperialist? Where's the grift in being an unapologetic communist? But that's all people have. Whenever critiquing people to their left, people who are engaged in liberalism, they don't know how to do it. They're used to arguing in a position where they believe they have the moral high ground. So liberal-minded people, social democrats and liberals, they're used to arguing against Republicans where they can take what they believe to be the moral high ground position. Whenever they argue against people to their left, they have nothing else but to smear. Because they almost have a factory shutdown. How can someone be to my left? I thought I was the moral one. So whenever someone is critiqued to the left and they're liberal, they immediately go to character assassination. Because that's how they justify someone being to the left. Oh, there's no way this motherfucker more left than me. He has to be a great piece of shit. Now do you guys see why Dr. Cornel West had a complete meltdown at RBN for a very mild critique of him? We have to be part of the Jimmy Dore left grifters if we ever critiquing him. Meanwhile, look at Dr. Cornel West's interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News, and look at how hard Sean Hannity goes at Dr. Cornel West, and they just all cool. But God forbid anyone on the left challenge them on anything. The same with Marianne Williamson. Remember when Marianne Williamson ran for president? She was going on CNN, she was going on Fox News, and she was getting grilled. She was getting destroyed, and she would have chummy conversations, even though they're attacking her in the most lowball ways, and she still has a smile on her face. Thank you for inviting me on. Yeah, I understand stuff. Meanwhile, she goes on RBN, and I immediately grill her, and then she smears me as a fucking sexist. She's like, yeah, she's like, you mansplaining. Remember, she smears me as a sexist. You guys see what liberal-minded people do? Whenever someone to their left critiques them, they melt down and they have no other reaction other than to smear their character. It becomes such a normal occurrence for me in this space. It's comical. It's almost like a scientific law at this point. Like you have scientific theories, you test it out. You're like, man, you gotta make sure it passed the test. I've seen this pattern so many times. This shit has passed so many scientific trials. A liberal just being nasty and not able to argue in good faith against leftists because they have nothing against them. To the point where it's scientific law. And that's why you see people smear Norman Finkelstein. Because he's not playing this bullshit game that many of the professional managerial class does. So let me get back to this clip. We still got one more segment to cover tonight. Same here, brother. You guys think I can ever get a corporate sales job again? Bro, if you Google my name, you'll see all the tweets and all the videos of me. Death to the RDF. Death to the RDF. From the river to the sea. Death to capitalism. Luigi Mangione is a hero. Like, bro, I feel you, bro. I feel you. There's a reason why I gotta jump on YouTube 3 times a week now. Because our professional career is over. There's a high price to pay, man. And that's why it's always baffling. People who make 6 figures, people who are wealthy, people who are part of the profession of the polite society, they will then turn around to people like me and Norman Finkelstein. People who are lawyers, people are literally people who are part of the establishment. They were like, "You look at this RBN fucking grifter." The brain rot is incredible, bro. But that's okay. Once again, I never want to be part of that society, guys. You don't have to feel. So I think that's a good place to end the stream. The point I was making at the end is I think this is what I use to distinguish between the professional managerial class level. There are people who moderate their positions in order to fit in polite society and make an income. These are the people that we tend to call out on RBN. And people like Norman Finkelstein and ourselves and many others, they make a personal sacrifice for taking the correct position. This is why I fuck with Norman Finkelstein. You guys know I unapologetically I fuck with Norman Finkelstein. Love this guy. I don't agree with him on everything. Like, he has a few anti-communist takes that's cringe to me. I seen a few takes that he have on the Soviet Union I don't agree with. I've seen Norman Finkelstein say plenty of things I don't agree with, but I still love this guy. I still love this guy, even though I heard him say something I don't like. The problem is, if I ever challenge Norman Finkelstein on these things I disagree with, I feel like he would fucking destroy me. I'll be 100% honest. I'm very fucking arrogant when it comes to my debate abilities. You guys know how fucking arrogant I am. I have no confidence in my ability to fucking throw down with Norman Finkelstein. I think I'm right when it comes to my positions on communism and revolution. He has a lot of anti-revolutionary positions. But if I was to fight Norman Finkelstein on and I was to try to push back on him on that, I feel like this motherfucker would destroy me, bro. I'll be 100% honest. I think he had a show with Bree. And he said a few things I didn't like. I was like, man, if he was on RBN and he said that, I was like, how would I handle that? I would probably try to put back on him. He would probably destroy me. Like, he one of the few guys. You guys know how arrogant I am. He one of the few guys I don't have a lot of confidence in my ability to take on. People like Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna is fucking light work, bro. You gotta see how easy it was for me to manhandle Ro Khanna. Destiny's light work. Destiny, he's a famed debater. He debated me one time for 20 minutes. He's like, nigga, I'm never doing that ever again. Robbie from the Hill debated me one time, had a meltdown. He's like, I'm never doing that again. So trust me, I'm pretty confident. I got some swag in my belief in my debating ability. I got curious on what you guys think in the comments, but I don't believe I will hang. I don't think I will, yeah. See, yeah, that's what I'm worried about. So if I had Dr. Finkelstein on, I would have to have, it would be like a softball interview because I'd be too scared to fucking push back on him. He's one of the few people, guys. I'll tell you, there's not a lot of people like that. He's one of the few people I'm like, man, if I ever push back on this motherfucker, I gotta be very careful on how I say it. So I'm gonna get directly to our last segment. I would love to read more comments too, man. I need to start doing that more. I think we try to invite him with Zoya? I don't know if Zoya watching tonight, but we reached out to a lot of people. A lot of people, a lot more than you guys probably think. I would love to have Norman on, but he's one of the people that's fucking intimidating to have on, man. Because if I have Norman on, I would pray he won't say some shit that pisses me off. Because he'll probably say some shit that'll piss me off. And then if I try to put back on him, he's gonna eat me alive. It's a lose-lose situation. But I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. I think Norm, he's been on Savvy, right? Yeah, so that's the thing, man. I got confidence in my debating skills, but that's fucking Norman, okay? I would love to have him on though. I'll try. All right, I wish I could read more chats. It's hard to do on solo streams, but I'll keep my eye on it. This will be my last segment. This segment is about how the Democratic Party and pro-genocide politicians are starting to freak out. Moderate Democrats, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but they are starting, and obviously a big part of this is because a Republican is president. Don't underestimate that fact, because if Kamala won, these motherfuckers would still be extremely pro-genocide. But they're seeing the polls. They're seeing the internal polls. You guys have to understand just how fucking dumb a lot of these Democrat politicians are. A lot of these people are they are actors. We said many times before that that Washington, D.C. is essentially Hollywood for ugly people. It's Hollywood for nerds, for the elite bourgeoisie class who couldn't make it in Hollywood. So there's not a singular thought. There's not any intellectual curiosity going on in their brain at all. Like, for example, when you see Kamala Harris, when you see Nancy Mace, when you see Nancy Mace, Kamala Harris, and these bimbos, all these idiots, do you think that they have a legitimate intellectual debate going on over the complexities of Middle Eastern foreign policy and the complexities of settler colonialism? No, they don't give a nigga. They take whatever their AIPAC handler tells them to say. That is exactly what they're going to say. So for the people who only care about winning elections, they've been used to just talking about and supporting Israel, repeating the AIPAC lobby position as gospel. And that's how you win elections. And that has been a great way to win elections, because, you know, our electoral politics is rigged. AIPAC rigged his elections. But now we are seeing a generational shift of likes we never seen before, because Donald Trump is probably one of the most historically unpopular presidents ever. I believe he is at this point in his presidency, especially with the Epstein scandal, the fact that he's supporting genocide too. He lost a large part of his base. Like, MAGA is in complete shambles. The Trump machine has never been weaker than it's ever been over the, like, 12 years he's been in politics, 11 years he's been in politics. It's never been this bad. But despite how bad Trump is doing, Democrats are still historically unpopular. I didn't have this saved, but let me see if I can find something. Democrats polling. Actually curious. Democrats tumble a new poll. Democrats' image is underwater. New poll has a warning. A significant number of Democrats view the party negatively. Oh, here, this is the one I was looking for. This was from a few weeks ago. Here it is. Look, Democrats get lowest rating from voters in 35 years. Wall Street Journal poll finds. So you would think, and this is what happens usually when the pendulum swings. You botch an election, you throw an election because you can't help but support genocide. And then the other party takes charge and they fuck up too. And then you're able to fundraise off of their fuck up and you get power too. But the Democratic Party really underestimated how much supporting genocide completely destroyed their brand. Look, Democrats gets lowest rating in 35 years. And Democrats, whenever they talk about why they're unpopular, it's nothing but cope. It's pathetic. They say, well, the reason why people are upset because they're mad because we're not doing nothing to fight Donald Trump. I know you hear people say that all the time. You hear progressives say, "Oh, well, the reason why Democrats are unpopular because they think we're not doing enough to fight Donald Trump." Bullshit. Maybe Democrats are unpopular because the Americans are seeing they're building top cities all over this country. Maybe the Democratic Party is historically unpopular because they supported and armed a genocide and they never politically recovered from that. And this is proven in exit polling. Exit polling show where all these people make all these fucking stupid theories. Well, Democratic Party lost because they went too far left. Democratic Party lost because of the trans issue. They bring up all these bullshit reasons why Democrats lost because they don't want to bring up the legitimate critique. The real reason, and that's because they chose supporting genocide over defeating the Orange Cheeto, who they said was the greatest threat to our democracy ever. That's why they pretend that it's always something else. But the reality is, and I have data to prove it, it's because of Israel. You want to know what really have Democrats panicked after all of this? Is they ran so hard against Zohran Mamdani in New York. They ran against Zohran Mamdani and they put Israel as the litmus test issue. They attacked them on the issue of Zionism. They made Zionism a referendum for one of the largest Jewish population cities, a city that is ran by Jewish Zionist Democrats, and they lost on that issue. So now, after getting destroyed on this issue against Zohran Mamdani, and they're seeing that it's not fading. Like, Democrats are turning against Israel in record number. Look, support for Israel continues to deteriorate, especially among Democrats and young people. So you guys think Democrats don't see this? Even though they would never admit it, you guys think Democrats don't know that their support of a genocide didn't cost them the election? We explained on RBN many times before the catastrophic consequences if Kamala Harris and Democrats would have won on a pro-genocide platform. So thank God the people did not give Kamala Harris and did not give the ruling class a mandate to commit genocide, because the 2024 election, in a nutshell, was an experiment by the liberal ruling class to see if they can win an election by supporting an Israeli genocide. It was the ultimate test to see what they can get away with. And thank God they failed. The moral consequence of them winning the election on genocide would have been catastrophic, to say the least. I think this is the best case scenario. Because if Trump lost, he could have said the election was rigged. He could have maintained his clout among his MAGA base. No, let Trump win again. Let this motherfucker expose himself again. He exposed himself in the first term. Let this motherfucker win again and expose himself. And that's exactly what happened. So if Trump lost, he could have just said Democrats rigged the election. He would start a news show. But now Trump won. Now he's exposed as a pedophile protector. He's exposed as an empire manager, just like Biden. He's continuing the Ukraine war. There's no change. There's still a genocide. There's no Epstein files. So the Democrats and the Republican Party was exposed. That's why I think it's good for us to make the pendulum swing as much as possible. So after seeing the American people reject genocidal policies, people like Richie Torres is in full-blown panic mode. Moderate Democrats changed their tone on Israel. Richie Torres is threading a needle after emphatic defense of Israel for most of the war. So can you guys imagine what Richie Torres will be saying if Kamala Harris and them won on a mandate for genocide? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to put too much stock on electoral politics because I can understand the flaw in that argument, right? We don't want to put too much stock in it. But do you understand that the moral soul of our people, the moral soul of humanity, it will take such a hit. Like, will we even recover as a people for rewarding these people for supporting genocide? So you guys realize that after Democrats lost because of their position on Israel, and then you have Zoran Mamdani, who won on the issue of stop murdering children. Richie Torres had all these dreams he has all these ambitions, and the ruling class was 100% behind him. This is one of the reasons why he went extremely pro-Israel, because he wanted to become governor, maybe run for president one day after becoming governor. Now, after seeing even the majority of Jewish New Yorkers see his opinion for genocide as deplorable, you have protests that he's facing every day. The same people that helped Zoran Mamdani win, they're now pledging to go after Richie Torres. So moderates like Richie Torres now realize that they are completely fucked. And it's completely glorious. It's so bad that even people like Andrew Cuomo, bro, like the shift, if you're a nerd like me, you pay attention to the shift, the shift is so palpable. Even Andrew Cuomo is starting to say stuff like, hey, man, I think Israel is going too far here. Like, I'm trying to pull this article up, but Bloomberg is fucking lie. Cuomo's fifth tone. Look, damn it, Bloomberg like now. But here's the Bloomberg headline: Cuomo shifts tone on Israel in New York campaign. We got blocked out the article here, but that's what it says here. Cuomo is now shifting his tone on Israel. So that election loss to Democrats, and then with Zoran winning, and this is why I said, even though I find Zoran to be extremely cringe, it still was a great propaganda victory, and it put the fear of God into the Zionists. That's why you got Richie Torres now getting close to Zoran Mamdani. Which leads to my question. Why is Zoran Mamdani allowing these people to fucking do PR off of his campaign? This is Zoran with Elizabeth Warren. The same with Zoran posing and doing photo ops with Richie Torres. So Zoran Mamdani is not using his election win to spark revolutionary action, not to create a mass movement to challenge Zionists. Zoran Mamdani is using his massive clout and his extremely impressive victory as a way to rehabilitate Democrats. The fuck he doing here? Zoran Mamdani, who haven't tweeted about Palestinians being starved, he essentially abandoned the issue of Gaza. I don't know if you guys know this. This motherfucker never talks about it anymore. Now he's allowing people like Elizabeth Warren, AOC, to get clout off him, while at the same time aggressively pushing back against defund the police now. Look at this. Zoran Mamdani's attempted police pivot continues. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go.
More and more difficult for them to respond to the very responsibilities that
I got the video. I don't want to play Fox's video here. So Mamdani recently said that we need to fight and tackle anti-Semitism. Now he is saying that we need to have a strong NYPD, and he laments the fact that NYPD officers are resigning en masse. So Zoran wants to keep the amount of NYPD officers on staff right now. Why would he want to do that? I tell you guys, man, the same thing with a black cop. The same thing with a black politician. This motherfucker is going to overcompensate. because he's been smeared as a secret Hamas agent. He's been smeared as a Muslim hater of the Jews. So you know what he's going to do in order to overcompensate for that? This motherfucker is going to weaponize the police state against Palestinian protesters, because he already said that he's going to form an anti-Semitism task force. They're like, Zoran, are you going to do anything about the anti-Semitism crisis? He's like, yeah, we're going to form a fucking panel on that. We're going to form a coalition. So we're already seeing Zoran Mamdani fold before he even wins the election. So quick question. When have we ever seen someone pivot to the right? When have we ever seen someone run on issues and then they win and then they govern to the left? That doesn't happen, guys. When do people govern to the left where they campaign at? That doesn't happen. If you have someone who's flipping on their positions before they even won the election, they're completely cooked. Because people are already making excuses for Zoran for this shit. They were saying, well, Zoran, he has to do this because he has to win. Okay, you guys realize he has re-election, right? You guys realize that he has to pass an agenda, right? So where does that line of thinking end? If you're willing to change your important positions because you're willing to win an election, you're going to change your position in order to get votes you need. Also, so a fucking referendum you're trying to pass, or for your next re-election campaign, or for the fact that what if Zoran wants to run for Senate one day? What if you want to run for governor one day? You don't want to lose endorsement. So if you're already conceding right now, that's a giant red flag. And guys, I'm saying this sincerely as someone. I don't dislike Zoran. I'm not even trying to persuade people in New York against voting against them, because I understand that people in New York are just voting to lower the cost of goods. And I'm not a New Yorker. Who am I to tell you who to vote for? I'm just making an argument on why I don't support this bullshit and why I believe that this is just another way for the working class to waste their time, their money, and their resources in order to prop up a sheepdog who is only here to revitalize the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party, who is historically unpopular, Zoran Mamdani, who I'm admitting is killing the game. Like, if you don't admit, Zoran Mamdani is destroying the game. He is killing the game of politics. He is extremely popular. He is dominating the primary race. He pulled an upset of a lifetime. He is killing it. Do you guys really believe that Zoran Mamdani needs Elizabeth Warren to win the election in New York? If he doesn't need Elizabeth Warren to win the election in New York, why is he teaming up with Elizabeth Warren? AOC is as unpopular as Nancy Pelosi. I have covered this so many times. AOC is one of the most unpopular politicians in the country. AOC supporters can make 1,000 excuses why that is, but that's just the simple reality. So I am not a believer when people say, well, John, she has to reach out to AOC. Does he? Now, if AOC doesn't endorse Zoran Mamdani, even if Zoran Mamdani doesn't reach out to her, what does that say about her? You gotta have these forcing people to show their hand. So what he's doing is essentially providing PR for these people and using his popularity as a way to rehabilitate the Democratic Party and continue to shift the progressive movement to the right. Now, with that said, I'm not. And a lot of people in New York get defensive at me for this, because I get it, man. You don't want Cuomo to win. You got Eric Adams derangement syndrome. I do too. I got Eric Adams derangement syndrome. I said that before. I'm not going after the people in New York for their decisions. I am making an argument for why we got to get serious about supporting a third-party movement and stop falling for these sheepdogs. So if you're in New York, do what you think is best. But when I see Zoran Mamdani turning against defund the police already, What I said first, I said is I want to see what Zoran Mamdani says about the NYPD. I said this my first segment covering him. I said if he goes hard at the NYPD, we know he's legit. And he's already backtracking. Let me play this clip. Let me be the last clip of the night. I'm already running kind of long.
No, I mean, he's good. He got it all.
My question here, there's been a lot of talk here today about Andrew Cuomo. And apparently the person who wants to become mayor of the city of New York is now going to be calling on you and others to do something about increasing the number of police, not just accepting the number of police that are there now, but also to beef up the SRG, which was responsible last week for going after the shooter on Park Avenue. And I wonder, obviously he's trying to go what he thinks is a weak spot for you. I wonder if you'd like to respond to that, because that's going to be his campaign period.
Andrew Cuomo will make his own decisions. What I have heard from New Yorkers is of the importance of public safety and the delivery of that outcome. They do not ask me about so much of what dominates our discussion in the political context. They ask me about them being able to go home safely at night. And I've said time and time again that every decision I make with regards to the NYPD will work backwards from an outcome of public safety. And that public safety, we know, it is one that also comes from listening to officers themselves. 200 officers are leaving the department every month. A leading cause of their departure is forced overtime. And the fact that every year we ask them to take on additional responsibilities. We are making it more and more difficult for them to respond to the very responsibilities that drew them to the job in the first place. And I think about the 7 major categories of crime as listed in CompStat. That is not the full extent of what we ask officers to do. The NYPD receives 200,000 mental health calls every year. How can they be expected to respond to that and to this? New Yorkers rightfully have concerns around public safety, and I want to empower police officers to respond.
Zoran Mamdani wants to empower police officers. This man went from defund the police to empower police officers. And I'm not a reformist when it comes to police. I am a co-founder of 10 Demands. So Zoran makes a good argument for how police shouldn't be involved in mental health. So even though that argument is a good argument in terms of police not being involved in mental health, if you don't defund the police and you don't decrease the power of the capitalist police state, what is the result of your policy? That means you're essentially saying that we need our police to spend more time cracking down on the working class. Less time of them shooting the mentally ill, more time on them cracking down on pro-Palestinian protests. You guys realize that is what his position means without defunding. Less time on mental health, more on cracking down. If you supported the police not getting involved in mental health crisis while defunding, that's a much more coherent position. And I don't accept people who are afraid to run away from the fiscal argument. Why are you afraid to make the fiscal argument against people who call themselves fiscal conservative on why we spend 3 times more on the New York Police Department than North Korea does on the military budget? There is no intellectual, moral argument to support the police spending that we have in this country. You guys heard the conversation I had with Jake Shields and people on the right. I talked to people on the right about this issue more than I talked about it with liberals. Why should anyone be afraid to talk about defund the police when we spend an insane amount of money on our police and people are still afraid? You oppose white people. White people are like, I still feel unsafe. I feel unsafe. I personally feel unsafe. Despite we're spending billions of dollars on our police. We spend more on our police than other countries do their military budget, bro. And you motherfuckers still feel unsafe? So where is the return on the investment? So if we are spending so much money on the police departments, shouldn't you motherfuckers be feeling safe? Shouldn't we have zero crime? Shouldn't you guys, oh my God, the crime rate is out of control. There's so much crime in these cities. Okay. What are you doing? What is the police doing in order to decrease crime with the police budgets you're approving of? Wouldn't it be a better idea if we defunded the police and invested in communities in order to have a smart approach to dropping the crime rate, because like I said to Jake Shields, and like I say to people all the time, there ain't niggas game banging in the suburbs. People not game banging in the suburbs. So people game bang when they are economically impoverished. When you have a broken society that leads to a rise of crime. So the capitalist class who needs poverty and needs an underclass, their solution to the issue of crime is not to tackle the root cause. It's to create a police industrial complex where they can funnel and create more money for the ruling class. They create a prison industrial complex where they make a ton of money on, because that's the capitalist solution to a problem. The reason why the crime rate is low in China, the reason why the crime rate is low in actually functioning societies, is because people have self-worth. They have projects that they're working on. They're putting their people to work. They're educating their people. They're feeding their people. They're housing their people. There is a shared national pride and interest in bettering the people. Under a capitalist system, your only value is making profit for the ruling class. The only thing that matters is making never-ending profit for the ruling class. The only thing that matters is money, even if it means screwing people over. So if you have a society where the only thing that matters is making money, even if it means screwing people over, how can you fucking blame people for going into organized crime? Especially when the ruling class has their own version of organized crime that they legalized. That's why when I see Zoran Mamdani and these social democrats, these democratic socialists, they are so afraid of making the fiscal argument when that's our strongest argument to make. You guys understand? The strongest argument that we can make to expose the hypocrisy of people who call themselves fiscal conservatives is to explain how their position on supporting giant police states and nanny states while claiming that they support "Don't Tread on Me" and libertarian ideology is incoherent. If you didn't see it, watch my appearance on Jake Shields' show and watch how much fun I had talking about this issue with them, because Jake Shields is an MMA fighter. He believes that we should have toxic masculinity, that men should be able to defend themselves. So the argument I made to him is, if you are a conservative and you believe in small government, why are you supporting a nanny state? And Jake Shields was like, yeah, that's a good point. And I promise you, as someone who lives in Missouri, I'm around conservatives all the time. Every single time I make this argument to people, they always say, yeah, you are kind of making a good point here. So why am I someone who is a college dropout, someone with a speech impediment, a country boy, and willing to be persuasive and make the argument for the correct position for the working class and wanting to disband the police state, but this smart, college-educated, political genius, Zoran Mamdani, is not able to make these arguments? This is why people who make these police reformist arguments are extremely annoying to me. So here's Zoran Mamdani explaining how he's going to reform, and he's going to have a gentle NYPD, guys. He's going to have a gentle NYPD where they don't have to worry about working overtime. So at least they won't be stressed. They'd be less likely to shoot you, I guess. Zoran, I want to make sure they don't work overtime. You don't have to work with mental health. I want you to spend more time suppressing the working class. That's what I hear.
Categories of crime as listed in CompStat. That is not the full extent of what we ask officers to do. The NYPD receives 200,000 mental health calls every year. How can they be expected to respond to that and to this? New Yorkers rightfully have concerns around public safety, and I want to empower police officers to respond to serious crime and hire the mental health professionals to respond to mental health calls.
How do you eliminate all this forced overtime that we all, I think everybody agrees, is the reason, part of the reason why people are leaving?
Part of it is by setting up.
So essentially, I know it's hard to hear the reporter. They're having a conversation about why there's a big problem with the NYPD officers quitting. So Zoran Mamdani is a leftist, and his issue with law enforcement that he's running on is that the conditions for the police officers is too bad. is that, oh my God, it's not that the NYPD is a fascist organization serving the Zionist state. It's that, oh my God, these people are going through too much trauma. They're overworking. They're quitting. The fuck, y'all? What the fuck are you talking about, Zoran? I don't know if you guys remember, but I did a segment about this a year ago. You guys remember that hilarious segment I did where we were celebrating the fact that the NYPD was defunding itself? I had a whole segment about how we was making police officers uncomfortable because we was making it a social stigma to serve the genocidal police state. So we was real leftists, people who are Marxists. As I explained many times before, communism is a true libertarian ideology that frees the working class. When we saw the story of the New York police officers not going to work, we was like, this is great. This is exactly what we want. If we can't pass legislation to defund the police, we're going to make the motherfuckers defund themselves. So as we was celebrating this story, the position of the professional managerial class leftists, we have to empower police officers so we don't have police officers quit the force. As I said before, man, if you're in New York, man, and you support Zoran Mamdani because you want cheaper goods, which I don't know how you're even going to fucking pull that off without a coherent socialist organization of the masses. So he's not even going to do that, by the way. The fact that he's willing to fold to the establishment, what's his strategy to do that? So anyway, the point I'm making, because I'm not trying to be an asshole. If you vote for Zoran because you want him to arrest Netanyahu, if you vote for Zoran Mamdani because you want cheaper goods, I'm not mad at you, bro. This is not a vote shaming segment. I promise you it's not. I'm explaining to you guys why a theory reading Marxist, a revolutionary, someone who actually engages in mutual aid, as someone who's serious about making a third party and making the argument for why we should support third parties, why this guy rubs me the wrong way, and why I believe he will be a disappointment for the working class. The fact that he's already backing down on the issue of policing. But anyway, let's wrap this clip up here.
Is the reason, part of the reason why people are leaving.
Remember, she essentially does a follow about New York police officers leaving.
Part of it is by setting up a department that is responding to things as they are, not things as we wish they would be. So much of this forced overtime is something that we can expect. It's not a surprise. It's a requirement of so much of the asks that we are making of these officers. And so when we ensure that it's not an officer who has to stand in the middle of the Times Square subway station and answer a question from a tourist of which exit works and which escalator they can take and what line is running with delays or without them, but that we actually have a transit ambassador such that that officer can focus on serious crime, it starts to reduce the kind of overtime that has both ballooned, but is also, as you're saying, pushing officers out of this department and into other departments where they know what time they'll get home at the end of the day.
If you like Zoran Mamdani, that's on you. I just want you guys to understand, this is not a socialist. This is the point that I made before. I just want you to have proper expectations. This guy is not organizing like a socialist. He's not organizing with socialists. He don't have a socialist plan for change. He's not a socialist. He's a liberal reformer. And if you think that is going to be the person you need to overthrow the New York capitalist Zionist class, then go for it, man. You probably know New York more than I do. But this is a waste of time for the left. And we will see if I'm wrong, and I highly doubt it. But a question I have is, why is Zoran Mamdani comfortable with standing with a Zionist, pro-war, pro-NATO, capitalist scumbag like Elizabeth Warren, but he's not willing to endorse Shama Sawant? Not willing to support mutual aid. He's not even saying anything about Gaza. I can't emphasize that enough, bro. I gotta check. Maybe he said something the last few days. I didn't look the last few days. But this motherfucker legitimately went a whole month. As of last week, he went like a month without saying anything about Gaza. So I thought the entire point of us supporting Zoran Mamdani, I thought the good part of Zoran winning is that we will have someone on the national stage that would raise awareness on Gaza. What's the point of that if this motherfucker stops talking about that issue the second he wins? But I don't want. I stopped dragging him. I'll end it with good news for the Zoran people. I end it with good news, and this is why Zoran Mamdani's strategy is very revealing in a way. Because Zoran Mamdani is whooping that ass. Zoran Mamdani is a much better politician than me. I will say that straight up. People like, Nick, you need to run, man. I don't know if I'm a good politician, man. Zoran Mamdani knows how to run a fucking mayor's race like a motherfucker, guys. Don't get me wrong. This man is a brilliant politician. If you need someone to sheepdog leftists back into the Democratic Party after they committed a genocide, this is exactly the guy you want in charge. This man is a political genius. Mamdani is crushing these bums. Mamdani polls higher than all the New York mayor candidates combined. So if he's crushing the game this much, and if he's winning the race this much, why is he already backing down from popular policy positions like defund the police? Why is he refusing to call out the famine in Gaza? Why is he already conceding to the establishment when he's in a position of strength? Why is he campaigning with Elizabeth Warren like Elizabeth Warren is going to be the fucking decider in New York? He's not campaigning with Elizabeth Warren because Elizabeth Warren will help him in his election. He is campaigning with Elizabeth Warren because he's trying to help her. He is trying to help rehabilitate the Democratic Party, which is why, bro, this motherfucker is fantastic news for the Democratic Party. This is exactly what I said. This is exactly why I told you guys he was allowed to win. The second that he was allowed to win, I was like, oh, there it is. The establishment was smart. They would have been fools to defeat him. You know why? Because the progressive, grifting, Bernie Sanders, the media industrial complex, they went all in on Zoran Mamdani. Kyle Kulinski went all in. Sam Cedar went all in. TYT went all in. Every single person who was still making an argument on why we should still take over the Democratic Party despite loss after loss after loss, after Nina Turner lost, after Jamal Bowman lost, after Cori Bush lost, they lost so many squad members, they lost so many progressive races. The progressives was down bad. The progressives was cooked, and there's a point where you can't even make a coherent argument why trying to run in the Democratic Party as a left is even worth our time. So what is the best thing that the Democratic Party can do right now when the Bernie Sanders left is on their heels? They're losing their credibility. They keep telling their audience that, man, we can win this election. We can win this election, and then they lose. If Zoran Mamdani lost, the project is over. Can you imagine how much credibility all these Zoran people would have lost if they told the people to support another progressive politician and they lost again? So Zoran Mamdani is a Hail Mary from the establishment. Because the ruling class realized that we need to run professional managerial class, Muslim, liberal Zionists to pretend they support Palestine. And that's the next grift. And they are being extremely successful with this grift thus far. We will see if Zoran Mamdani prove me wrong. But throughout this, 30-minute segment, I gave you guys so many red flags and how I already see he's not going to do that. Because what Zoran is doing with his massive popularity, with his political genius, once again, this motherfucker is killing it, bro. This motherfucker is fucking locked in. Kobe Bryant with the Lakers. Jordan in the 90s. This motherfucker is locked in. This motherfucker is prime Anderson Silva. This motherfucker is Mike Tyson in the 90s. He is locked in. But that's why he's here. He's gonna use his clout and he's gonna use his power to organize and create a stronger Democratic Party. Am I making that up? No. That is what he said. Zoran Mamdani said his goal is to create a strong, open Democratic Party. And he's been very successful, man. Everyone's back in the tent. Now you guys see why Richie Torres is palling around with Zoran Mamdani. And this is the question I was asking Zoran supporters. Why is Zoran Mamdani using his massive popularity in order to help Richie Torres rehabilitate his image in a time where I just explained to you that Richie Torres is panicking? So tie these two together. Richie Torres is panicking because he sees the rise of Zoran Mamdani. He sees genocide Democrats face a massive backlash. So you know what he does? He aligns himself with Zoran. And Zoran allows himself to rehabilitate his image, and all the genocidal Democrats whose career should be over will get behind Zoran Mamdani. Every single genocidal New York Zionist Democrat will be thus rehabilitated because, hey, don't you know he supported Zoran? I don't got the tweet say, but remember, there was a Zionist who endorsed Zoran Mamdani, and Zoran Mamdani, like, I'm so grateful to have the endorsement of the genocidal Zionists. You guys see, they are using him to rehabilitate their image. So my last argument I'm going to make is, even though people in New York are supporting Zoran because they want cheaper goods, because they're voting for the lesser of two evil, the argument I am making here is it's a waste of the left's time not to be building a socialist, pro-worker, anti-Zionist third party at all times. Any energy that is not spent towards that, building ballot initiatives, getting ranked choice voting in states that don't have it, is a waste of time. We need to be spending all our money and all our resources building the United States equivalent of the Morena Party, like Claudia Sheinbaum and AMLO did. They didn't engage in entryism. Claudia Sheinbaum is one of the most popular, probably the most popular leftist leader in the world next to Xi Jinping, because they created a new socialist third party that is delivering massive victory for the working class in Mexico. So that is the position I have. And I think we should make the position unapologetic. Third-party activists for a very long time apologized for supporting third party. No, I'm going to explain my position and exactly why I don't support your sheepdogs. And not like, oh, Nick's just a hater. He has no arguments against Zoran. You guys just heard for 30 minutes explain why I don't trust them. And why anyone who's serious about building a third party shouldn't be working and spending any time towards this. Especially if you're not a New Yorker. Once again, if you're a New York worker, you probably know what's better for you than me. I'm just making the argument on why, from Marxist revolutionary perspective, we need to start building our own parties and stop engaging in entryism and begging Zoran to support us when he has no interest to. He'd rather hang out and pal with Richie Torres and Elizabeth Warren instead of Shama Sawan and RBN, and allow him to make those choices. Anyway, I need to shut the fuck up. We're 2 hours in. Was there any super chats I missed? Yeah, well, I think we got a pretty good show tonight. Like 1,500 people watching on X and YouTube. 370 people watching live now. I think we hit a peak of like 450 on YouTube. Like, you guys know the algorithm is crushing me, but we are making very steady gains with the new show. Since you guys know I'm going live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the streak continues. This is what, my 9th straight show without breaking. And I'm going to keep the streak going as long as I can. You guys know I'm going to be live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The algorithm is not going to help you guys find my stream. You just got to tune in if you're interested in these streams. But the good news is our numbers is growing, man. Like, the algorithm is keeping us down, but as I stay consistent, as we show up for Nick at Primetime every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, our numbers is going up. So if you guys want to help us share, like, spread the word so Nick at Primetime can be a legitimate leftist voice, I will appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, MC, for your super chat. Appreciate the new member, Old Air Patino. Another $2 from fake account. I already gave Lewis Malone a shout out, but I'll give him another one. A shout out to him. And these are the other super chats we read. I think we're all good. So, man, 2 hours. Bro, these Nick at Primetime shows are good because I told you guys I'm leaning more into. I'm like, man, if I'm gonna be surprised about the algorithm, I might as well have fun. So I'm gonna just rant. I'm gonna try and educate you guys, let you guys understand my point of view. Dive into theory, dive into history. These shows gonna be a lot more rant friendly. I was planning 1 hour, and we did 2 hours. We did 2 hours. So hopefully, you guys enjoy these streams. Please like, share, subscribe. Much love to all you guys. Take care.